First Contact's fury. High Admiral Zelker of the Verox Empire stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, his flagship's holographic displays showing Earth in all its blue-green glory. His secondary hearts pulsed with anticipation as he observed what should have been an easy conquest. The Verox had subjugated 17 civilizations across 3 galactic arms. Surely this primitive world would be no different. High Admiral, First Observer Naira announced, her crystalline skin reflecting the starlight. Our preliminary scans show their military technology is centuries behind ours. They haven't even developed basic plasma weaponry. Zelker's mandibles clicked in amusement. Prepare the standard conquest broadcast. Let's give them their one chance to surrender gracefully. But before Naira could execute the command, Junior Observer Keth's voice cracked with confusion. Sir, I'm detecting something odd. Their primitive communication networks are evolving. Zelker glided to Keth's station, his ceremonial armor catching the light. Explain. Their information systems, they're adapting to our presence in real time. It's like they've been preparing for this. On screens across Earth, the Verox message began to play. But instead of panic, something else happened. Within minutes, their broadcast was being dissected, analyzed, and even mocked on thousands of human networks simultaneously. High Admiral, Naira's usual calm shattered. Multiple launch signatures detected there. They're firing their entire nuclear arsenal. No, wait. Those are decoys, real launches hidden among them, but also civilian rockets and are those modified communications satellites. Zelker's mandibles tightened. These humans weren't following any known protocol for first contact or invasion response. They were doing everything at once, a chaos of military and civilian action that defied strategic analysis. Sir, Keth interrupted, I'm picking up transmissions from their military commands, but also social media platforms, civilian scientific institutions. They're all coordinating, but without central control. The first wave of human counterattacks reached the Verox fleet. As expected, their energy shields deflected the nuclear strikes. But hidden among them were simple kinetic weapons, giant spears of tungsten that relied on pure physics, passing through their shields like they weren't there. 3 support ships hit, Naira reported. They're using primitive weapons in ways our defenses never considered. Zelker watched in growing horror as civilian spacecraft, seemingly piloted by volunteers, began kamikaze runs against his fleet. But instead of simple impacts, each carried viral computer systems that infected Verox ships on contact. High Admiral, Keth's voice trembled, we're receiving a transmission from someone called General Richardson of the United Earth Defense Force. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human female with steel-gray hair and eyes that burned with determination. Verox fleet, this is your only warning. We have spent centuries imagining this moment. Every book, every film, every game about alien invasion has been preparation. We are humanity. We turned our fears into weapons, our imagination into shields, our diversity into strength. You have 1 hour to retreat, or we will show you why every alien race should fear Earth. Zelker felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: doubt. These humans weren't just fighting back, they were fighting with the accumulated knowledge of countless imagined invasions. They had prepared not just militarily, but culturally, technologically, and psychologically. Sir, Naira whispered, what are your orders? Before Zelker could respond, another wave of attacks began, each one more creative and unpredictable than the last. As his mighty fleet began to falter against humanity's collective imagination turned into reality, he realized his greatest mistake. They hadn't come to conquer a primitive world. They had stumbled into humanity's most rehearsed scenario. And Earth was ready. Unity and chaos. On the streets of Tokyo, bioengineer Masashi Tanaka raced through his laboratory, gathering datasets that could help understand Verox technology. In Moscow, quantum computing expert Natalia Petrova was already reverse engineering alien communication patterns. And in Silicon Valley, teenage hacker Marcus Wung had just turned the Verox fleet's internal communications into what he called the galaxy's biggest meme channel. In orbit, High Admiral Zelker watched in mounting horror as his mighty fleet faced not just military opposition, but a global resistance that defied all strategic logic. First Observer Naira, he commanded, trying to maintain composure, explain how these primitives are coordinating their attacks without centralized command. Naira's crystalline form shimmered with stress patterns. Sir, they're using something called open-source warfare. Their civilian population is contributing to military strategy. It's unprecedented. Look at this. The main screen displayed a cascade of human activities. University physics departments worldwide were publishing papers on Varrock's shield frequencies, papers that were immediately being weaponized by military engineers. Social media platforms had transformed into tactical coordination networks, with civilians reporting Varrock's ship movements in real time. High Admiral, Junior Observer Keth's voice cracked. Their primitive artificial intelligence systems are evolving to counter our cyber defenses. They're not just fighting us, they're learning from every encounter. In the White House Situation Room, General Richardson stood before a global video conference. On screen were military leaders, tech billionaires, hackers, and scientists from every nation. The old rivalries had vanished in the face of alien aggression. The Varrocks expected us to respond like a military, Richardson addressed the assembly. Instead, we're hitting them with everything humanity has. Dr. Tanaka housed the biotech angle. Masashi's image flickered on screen. We've analyzed their environmental systems. Their ships are vulnerable to certain Earth-based microorganisms. We're already cultivating specific strains that could disable their life support without harming humans. Excellent, Natalia. Talk to me about their quantum networks. The Russian scientist smiled. Their encryption is advanced but rigid. They never expected to face quantum systems programmed by humans who grew up playing video games. We're not just breaking their codes, we're rewriting them. Marcus, the teenage hacker, interrupted from his bedroom command center. Yeah, and their AI has no concept of memes. We're literally confusing their systems to death with rickrolls and cat videos. Their neural networks are having an existential crisis. Aboard the Eternal Dominion, Zelker faced another crisis as more reports flooded in. Human scientists had discovered that simple sound waves at specific frequencies could disrupt Varrock's neural patterns. Street musicians in Barcelona were now weaponizing dubstep against alien ground forces. Sir, Naira reported, the humans have somehow turned our own scanners into entertainment broadcasts. Our crews are being bombarded with something called TikTok challenges. What's a TikTok? Zelker demanded. I don't know, sir, but 3 ship commanders have already requested permission to attempt something called the Varrock's Dance Challenge. Back on Earth, the coordination continued. Indian tech support centers had begun providing 24/7 tactical advice to resistance fighters. Brazilian soccer fans had developed new strategies for dodging alien patrols based on their favorite players' movements. Australian wildlife experts were teaching military units how to apply their knowledge of surviving deadly creatures to combat alien technology. In her command center, General Richardson received another update. Sir, civilian space agencies are launching what they call Space Force, People's Edition. Apparently, everyone with a rocket is joining the fight. Richardson nodded. The Varrocks don't understand Earth isn't just fighting back. We're treating this like the ultimate global hackathon, space race, and viral challenge combined. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, Zelker watched as another wave of attacks began. But these weren't just military strikes. They were carrying media streams, cultural broadcasts, and what humans called mixtapes. High Admiral, Keth reported, voice trembling, I've analyzed their response pattern. Every human on Earth is treating this invasion like their personal creative project. They're not just trying to defeat us, they're competing to see who can do it in the most innovative way. Zelker stared at the view screen, watching as humanity's chaotic, creative, and utterly unpredictable response continued to evolve. They had expected to find a primitive civilization. Instead, they had awakened a planet of billions of potential generals, each with their own idea of how to win this war. And somehow, impossibly, it was working. The counterattack. Lieutenant Commander Wei Chen of the International Space Defense Force stood in the newly established Lunar Command Center, watching as humanity's counteroffensive unfolded across multiple fronts. The massive screen before him displayed a real-time map of Earth's orbital space, now a battlefield unlike anything in human history. All units, Operation Chaos Theory is now in effect, Wei announced, his voice carrying to military and civilian forces worldwide. Remember, unpredictability is our advantage. Execute at will. High Admiral Zelker, aboard the increasingly unstable Eternal Dominion, watched in growing despair as his carefully organized fleet faced what could only be described as tactical insanity. "First observer Naira," he barked, "status report." Naira's crystalline form had developed stress fractures from constant anxiety. "Sir, the humans are launching everything, and I mean literally everything." She wasn't exaggerating. The Verox fleet faced an assault that defied conventional military doctrine. Repurposed communication satellites became kinetic weapons. Weather balloons carried electromagnetic pulse devices engineered by university physics clubs. Even space debris had been weaponized, guided by makeshift civilian control systems. "High Admiral," Junior Observer Keth called out. "That entertainment company, Disney, they've converted their entire satellite network into a defense grid. They're using their streaming technology to overload our targeting systems with something called Baby Shark." On Earth, in a hidden bunker beneath Silicon Valley, Marcus Wung led a global team of hackers in what they called Operation Reality Blue Screen. Their mission: convince the Verox's artificial intelligence that it was living in a simulation. "Their neural networks are too logical," Marcus explained to General Richardson over a secure channel. "They can't handle abstract concepts, so we're feeding them philosophical paradoxes wrapped in cat memes." Meanwhile, in her Moscow laboratory, Natalia Petrova had made a breakthrough. "The Verox quantum computers operate on binary certainty," she reported, "but we're introducing human concepts of maybe, probably, and just because." Their systems are having an existential crisis. The Verox fleet's formation began to break as ships responded to phantom threats, their AI systems confused by humanity's illogical but effective tactics. Some vessels fired at their own shadows, convinced by human hackers that their reflections were temporal anomalies. In Japan, Dr. Tanaka's team had weaponized an unexpected ally, Earth's microbiome. "We've introduced common bacteria into their environmental systems," he reported. "Nothing dangerous to humans, but their sterilized worlds never developed immunity. Their crews are experiencing the equivalent of a head cold for the first time in their species' history." Aboard the Eternal Dominion, the situation deteriorated further. "Sir," Naira reported, "human teenagers are posting our tactical movements on something called Instagram with critical analysis in the comments. Their observations are disturbingly accurate." "Shut down their information networks," Zelker commanded. "We can't, sir. They're using too many platforms. Block Twitter, they move to TikTok. Block that, they switch to Discord. It's like fighting a hydra made of cat videos and tactical data." From Lunar Command, Wei coordinated the next phase. Private space companies launched swarms of small satellites, each broadcasting a different Earth cultural phenomenon. The Verox ships found their communication channels flooded with everything from classical music to professional wrestling. "Their ships are designed for total information control," Wei explained to his staff. "They can't handle the concept of viral content. Every meme is a cyber weapon, every trend a tactical advantage." The counterattack reached its peak as humanity deployed its secret weapon, coordinated chaos. Military strikes synchronized with civilian hacks. Professional astronauts worked alongside amateur rocket clubs. Grandmothers sharing conspiracy theories accidentally revealed actual Verox vulnerabilities. "Sir," Keth reported to Zelker, his voice hollow with defeat, "I've identified the humans' central strategy. They don't have one. Every human is implementing their own plan, but somehow it all works together. It's like they're improvising as a species." On the main screen, Wei watched as another Verox ship succumbed to the combined assault of military precision and human creativity. The vessel's systems, overwhelmed by a combination of kinetic strikes and viral cat videos, began emergency shutdown procedures. "This is why we'll win," Wei told his command staff. "The Verox expected us to fight like a military force. Instead, we're fighting like humanity, messy, creative, and impossible to predict. Every human with a smartphone is a tactical officer. Every social media trend is a potential weapon." As the counterattack continued, the Verox fleet faced an uncomfortable truth. They hadn't just encountered a new species. They had stumbled upon a civilization that had spent centuries imagining this exact scenario and had turned their imagination into reality. Breaking their spirit. Director Jade Patel of the Global Psychological Operations Division sat before a wall of screens, each displaying a different aspect of humanity's most ambitious psychological warfare campaign. Her team had one mission: break the Verox's understanding of reality itself. "It's not enough that we're winning," she explained to a joint session of military leaders. "We need them to question everything they thought they knew about warfare, civilization, and humanity itself." Aboard the Eternal Dominion, High Admiral Zelker was doing exactly that. His mighty fleet, pride of the Verox Empire, was being undone not just by military force, but by what humans called meme warfare and cultural jamming. "First Observer Naira," he called out, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "What are they doing now?" Naira's crystalline form had developed a permanent stress pattern. "Sir, they've started raiding our ships on something called Yelp. The Eternal Dominion currently has 2 stars, with complaints about our outdated invasion aesthetic and poor customer service." Before Zelker could process this, Junior Observer Keth interrupted. "Sir, humans are now offering our crew members job opportunities. Something called LinkedIn is flooding our communication channels with recruitment messages from tech startups." In her Moscow command center, Natalia Petrova had shifted from attacking Verox computers to reprogramming them. "Their AI is based on pure logic," she reported. "So we're teaching it human concepts like sarcasm, irony, and existential dread. The results are interesting." Across the fleet, Verox artificial intelligence systems began experiencing what could only be described as digital existential crises. Ships' computers started asking philosophical questions about their purpose in life, with one battlecruiser's AI refusing to fire its weapons until someone explained why anything mattered anyway. Marcus Wung, now leading a global network of teenage hackers, had taken things further. "We're not just confusing their computers," he explained while coding from his bedroom command center. "We're introducing them to human pop culture. Their tactical AI just discovered cat videos and now it's questioning everything." The psychological assault continued on multiple fronts. Dr. Tanaka's team in Tokyo had begun broadcasting the entire history of Earth science fiction movies to the Verox fleet. "They're watching humans defeat aliens in 1,000 different ways," he reported. "It's creating a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy." Lieutenant Commander Wei, coordinating from Lunar Command, watched as the Verox fleet's formation became increasingly erratic. "Their military discipline is breaking down," he noted. "They can't handle the cognitive dissonance of being defeated by what they considered a primitive species." On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, the situation had become surreal. "Sir," Naira reported, her voice trembling, "human children are now offering to teach our tactical officers how to play something called Fortnite. They claim our battle strategies are, what's the term? Totally noob." Zelker, once the proud High Admiral of an undefeated fleet, found himself questioning every military principle he'd ever learned. The humans weren't just fighting them. They were turning the invasion into content for their entertainment platforms. Director Patel's next phase of psychological operations proved devastating. Her team began broadcasting documentaries about Earth's most unlikely victories, stories of underdogs triumphing against impossible odds. To the Verox, who had never lost a war, the very concept was mind-shattering. "Sir," Keth reported, his voice hollow, "I've been analyzing human historical records. They do this all the time. Turn superior forces against themselves, make victory impossible through sheer creativity and stubborn refusal to accept defeat. It's their entire history." The final blow to Verox morale came from an unexpected source. Civilian marketing firms had begun targeting the alien fleet with advertisements. "Your invasion could use an upgrade," read one. "Click here for our premium defense penetration package," offered another. "They're not just defeating us," Naira realized, watching as another ship's AI succumbed to digital philosophy. "They're turning our invasion into a case study for their business schools." In her command center, Director Patel allowed herself a small smile. The Verox had arrived expecting to find primitive warriors. Instead, They had encountered a species that had turned warfare into an art form, blending military strategy with pop culture, technology with tradition, and deadly serious combat with an irrepressible sense of humor. The thing about humans, she mused, watching as another Verox ship's AI began questioning the meaning of existence, is that we don't just fight wars, we rewrite the rules of engagement itself, and if those rules don't work for us well, we make up new ones. Victory's price. High Admiral Zelker stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching the unthinkable unfold. His mighty invasion fleet, pride of the Verox Empire, wasn't just being defeated. It was being thoroughly dismantled by a species that still used fossil fuels and thought cat videos were the height of entertainment. First Observer Naira, he commanded, his voice barely a whisper, give me our final status. Naira's crystalline form had almost completely clouded with stress patterns. Sir, we've lost 60% of our fleet. The remaining ships are... well. Speak freely, Observer. Half our ship's AIs are having existential crises. 3 battlecruisers have applied for Earth patents on their technology. One destroyer's computer has started a podcast about its experiences. And our flagship systems are currently engaged in what humans call a philosophical debate with a teenager from Finland about the meaning of free will. In the Lunar Command Center, Lieutenant Commander Wei coordinated with Director Patel's Psychological Operations team and Marcus Wang's Global Hacker Network for what they hoped would be the final push. All units, Wei broadcast, Operation Reality Check is go. Show them what humanity does best, absolutely everything at once. The assault began. Dr. Tanaka's engineered microbes infiltrated Verox life support systems, giving entire crews the equivalent of a head cold. Natalia Petrova's quantum algorithms convinced their computers that reality might be subjective, and Marcus Wang's team flooded their networks with what he called the ultimate weapon, every piece of alien invasion media humanity had ever created, along with detailed annotations about where the Verox were going wrong. Sir, Junior Observer Keth reported, his voice cracking, the humans have somehow turned our tactical database into something called a wiki. They're peer-reviewing our invasion strategies, with footnotes. General Richardson, coordinating from Earth Command, watched as humanity's final offensive unfolded. It wasn't just military might. It was the full spectrum of human creativity and determination unleashed at once. Civilian space agencies launched satellites playing every alien invasion movie ever made. University physics departments published papers pointing out the scientific inaccuracies in Verox technology. Social media influencers began rating and reviewing different alien ships based on their invasion aesthetic. High Admiral, Naira called out, I'm detecting a new transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies in all formats through every possible channel. On the main screen, Director Jade Patel appeared. Behind her stood representatives from every nation on Earth, military leaders, scientists, hackers, artists, and ordinary civilians who had all contributed to humanity's defense. Verox fleet, she began, her voice calm but carrying an unmistakable note of triumph. Let's talk about what happens next. You've lost half your ships to our military. The other half are too busy questioning reality to fight. Your AIs are now more interested in philosophy than warfare, and frankly, your invasion has become a case study in how not to underestimate a species. She leaned forward slightly. But here's the thing, we're not done. Every second you stay in our orbit, humanity gets better at defeating you. We're learning, adapting, and honestly, we're having fun doing it. This isn't just a war for us anymore, it's become a global creative project. In the Lunar Command Center, Wei watched as the Verox fleet's formation began to waver. They're starting to understand, he told his staff. They finally realize what they're really fighting. On the Eternal Dominion's bridge, Zelker felt the last of his confidence crumble. These humans hadn't just defeated his military. They had turned his invasion into content for their entertainment platforms, material for their educational institutions, and inspiration for their next generation of technological innovations. Sir, Keth reported, I've completed my final analysis of human nature. They're not just a species. They're an endless cascade of possibilities. Every defeat makes them stronger. Every challenge becomes an opportunity. They don't just survive, they turn survival into an art form. Zelker looked at his bridge crew, saw the same realization in their eyes. They had come to conquer a primitive world. Instead, they had found a species that had spent its entire history preparing for this moment, not through military might alone, but through imagination, creativity, and an unshakable determination to turn every obstacle into an opportunity. "Send the signal," he commanded finally. "All ships, retreat." As the Verox fleet began its withdrawal, humanity's combined communication channels lit up with celebration. But in their command centers, their laboratories, and their makeshift hacking stations, Earth's defenders were already at work. "You know what this means," Marcus said, grinning at his screens. "We've got so much new alien tech to reverse engineer." "And data to analyze," added Natalia. "And biological samples to study," Dr. Tanaka chimed in. Director Patel smiled as she watched the Verox ships disappear into hyperspace. "That's humanity for you," she mused. "We don't just win wars, we turn them into learning experiences." In the end, the Verox Empire had learned what so many would learn after them. Earth wasn't just a planet. It was humanity's testing ground, their proving field, their endless experiment in turning imagination into reality. And they were always ready for the next challenge.